Indian Army had carried out surgical strikes in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir to destroy a terrorist training camp and some other facilities in different locations. Pakistan denied it. Some politicians in India questioned it, even though the world believes India's story, whether it's Russia, the United States, the European Union. But now, an Indian journalist has spoken to people in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and he gets us the inside track of destruction caused by Indian Army Special Forces. Praveen Swami is Editor Strategic Affairs of the Indian Express newspaper. He joins us on the broadcast. Praveen, congratulations on this scoop. Can you tell us details of who you spoke to in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and where?
Well, Gaurav, as you know, a lot of people in the border districts on the Indian side of the line of control have relatives and family on the Pakistani side. And one of the wonderful things the internet has done is all these divided families are now regularly in touch with each other. And since journalists for Indian journalists to have access to the Pakistani side of the line of control is pretty much impossible, and there were no stories coming out of from the ground on the Pakistani side of the line of control in the Neelam Valley, we thought we'd tap that channel to see what we could get. And we eventually made contact with 5 individuals through families in the district of Kupwara, basically. With individuals who have business or live in the Neelam Valley. Okay. I don't want to say more for obvious reasons because we don't want to get them into trouble. But again, provided graphic accounts of what they were being told by people in the Neelam Valley. Where we were skeptical about what they were saying, we asked for photographic corroboration. We got that. We haven't published it again because we don't want to get people into trouble.
What do these photographs
show? The net result of their stories, I think, is
the photographs that you
show
have.
In one case, Gaurav, I don't want to go into detail, but they show damage certainly at one area next to one what's popularly known as a launch pad. And they show extensive damage in another area. I'll just leave it at that because obviously it will be easy to, for anyone to figure out who was taking pictures where, when. But they leave very little doubt that there was a firefight substantially across the line of control, at least in these 3 areas which we have identified.
Okay,
now, as you
substantial firefight using small arms. So this couldn't have been just artillery bombardment from the Indian side, which means Indian Special Forces were inside.
What people absolutely not. For example, at Ashmukam, people woke up in the middle of the night around 3 a.m. they say to loud explosions and to small arms fire. Remember, these are people who live in an area where there's frequently been artillery fire. They know artillery when it's firing. And this was not artillery. And the next morning they saw 5 or 6 dead bodies being loaded onto a truck and being taken away down the valley. Very clear these were people killed in the firing the previous night. Now at this place at Dudnial, the launch pad, which is basically a house where infiltrators wait until they move up in groups of 3 and 4 fully loaded onto the ridge next to the line of control and then wait for an opportunity to cross. This launch pad is located right next to a Pakistan military picket that's on what's called the Al-Hawa bridge, which is the main bridge opposite the bazaar in Dudnihal. That's where the firing's taken place, and the launch pad seems to have been destroyed completely, the launch pad or the house or whatever you want to call it. Similar damage in one of the hamlets in Lipa. There are 25, 26 hamlets there, similar launch pads. And in fact, that launch pad was used, ironically, just a couple of weeks ago to run a medical aid camp by the Jamaatud Dawa for villagers in the Lipa Valley area in an effort to build, goodwill among them. In Atmukam, which is the Pakistani brigade headquarters, people heard a lot of firing from a creek that runs up from the brigade headquarters to the line of control. But that's somewhat further up, so we couldn't get corroboration. But our witness told us he'd heard some people were brought to the district hospital at Atmukam, but we could not get corroboration of how many or what, but
So
all
the
signs
extent
of fighting in that area.
Okay, the extent of the surgical strike, the extent of operations, not limited to any one sector on either side of Pir Panjal, is that what your information is, Praveen?
No, quite. These three areas are quite significantly spread. They're all in the northern reaches of the line of control. The Neelam Valley stretching for quite some distance, or the Kishan Ganga as we call it here, that river cutting along the line of control all the way from the far north down to quite far south, almost to Titwal, which is quite a way down. And these three areas quite scattered. It's possible there are places in the middle or further down where also things have happened, but our witnesses are not able to provide us accounts. And I'm certain, as Pakistani journalists themselves, they're extremely competent professional journalists there. As journalists make their way into the area, as things unfold, we will be getting further detail from this region. I don't think there's any real doubt right now that something happened, something quite significant happened, and more detail will slowly emerge.
You know, because the Pakistan army took foreign diplomats, they took defense attaches, they took foreign journalists, and apparently the narrative was nothing happened and India lied, Praveen.
Look, quite frankly, I think in a similar situation, I don't think we could have expected anything else from what is, after all, a government public relations trip. If the government's denying something, it's hardly likely to take people to a place where they'll be hearing the opposite. But what we do know about that Pakistan government trip is that people were taken to the area around Tattapani, which is roughly opposite our Mendar area. Now that's why Pakistan said it had lost 2 soldiers in firing across the line of control. Maybe India launched a cross-border raid which landed into resistance. We don't know the details. But they didn't go up the Neelam Valley, they didn't go to most of the launch pads. And I very much doubt if, in a large group of 40 odd people, with lots of military officers present, villagers would in any case talk freely.
Yes.
We'll have to wait for journalists to have the opportunity to talk freely with people, to roam around freely. And I'm sure that even as we're speaking, Gaurav, there are colleagues on the other side making efforts to get further information on what happened. I mean, like I said, this is the age of the internet. Nothing stays secret for very long, and I'm sure we'll be getting more detailed accounts as the days roll by.
Oh, absolutely. But Praveen, the United Nations military operations group in India and Pakistan, now they seem to have made a statement that they had heard nothing of such a strike.
I'm sorry, they didn't actually say this. They said they had not directly observed fire. That's very different from saying they had seen nothing. In the middle of the night, it's profoundly unlikely that they would have directly observed fire, given that there was no cross LoC shelling. These military observer group does not have pickets or outposts of its own that stay 24/7. They are positioned at various locations to receive complaints from Pakistan. When they receive complaints, they investigate those complaints and they submit reports to the Office of the Secretary General. I'm sure if they have received any complaints from Pakistan about cross-border strikes, then they will investigate those complaints. But since Pakistan hasn't said there have been any cross-border strikes, the UNMOGIP is not going to be investigating what happened. It's only going to investigate what is flagged to it as a complaint. They were asked whether they had seen anything, and they quite correctly replied that they had not.
And Praveen, your investigations,
wording though.
Yes, your investigations continue.
Sorry,
They're not
Gaurav,
restricted just to the Neelam Valley. They will extend beyond, as the DGMO didn't give any details of which area India struck. It is Pakistan that claims.
I do wish the Indian government comes forward with greater detail. In my view, statements made by nation states should be verifiable. Otherwise, there's no point to a statement. That's my personal opinion. Having said that, I mean, we will continue to establish as much information as we can, bearing in mind, of course, that people on the other side are quite scared. I mean, they live in a dispensation quite different from ours. There are consequences for talking. The ISI is not a friendly organization, and but we will continue to do as much as we can to reveal as much as we can. And I know there will be other Indian journalists, other news organizations, and other Pakistani news organizations working at it. However, I know all your viewers will understand this. Working in Pakistan at the best of times is difficult, and in a situation like this, viewers have to be patient and give news organizations a little more time than they normally would to find out exactly what has happened.
Benefit of the viewers who are joining us, we are putting out the map on the basis of your report. Where all were there reports of a surgical strike? So there was a surgical strike in Atmukam, and you were saying that there's a brigade headquarters there. There was one, you're saying, in Lipa Valley and one in Dudnial. Very difficult areas. The terrain, it's a very difficult terrain to penetrate, Praveen. Do we have details of how the army did it?
It's extremely forested. Our soldiers would have had to walk. There are a number of mountain routes, as you know. Nalas cutting across the area, number of forested patches. They would have taken routes which avoided minefields. They're unlikely to use the nalas, which would be the most dangerous and easily observable. I've trekked in the Pir Panjal a fair bit, and I can only say that I salute anyone who tries walking down those hillsides with a Carl Gustav recoilless rifle strapped on their back.
Yes.
And the uphill climb must have been extremely arduous. 3-4 kilometers in darkness. You have to say it's extremely hard work.
Oh, absolutely. So Carl Gustav. They had their Carl Gustavs, they had their flamethrowers, they had their underbarrel grenade launchers, we are told. Now, in all of this, what would you say about the commandos, about the special forces who participated in this operation? And as many in Pakistan are saying, where was the Pakistan army all this while?
Well, tough men. Having said that, armies on both sides of the line of control have carried out such raiding in the past. They're professional soldiers, extremely good soldiers. The Indian Army, in all these years when it's lost men, has given out at least as good as it's given. These raids have been slightly wider in their timing and scope than in the past. But Indian Army Special Forces and Indian Army units have retaliated in the past in similar terrain and similar circumstances. There's been a great amount of extremely brave and courageous action which hasn't got the kind of attention it's getting today. And I hope one of these days that soldiers involved in those operations will come out and tell their story, because they probably deserve some of the nation's recognition as well about things that happened and could not previously be talked about.
Oh, absolutely. And before we let you go, Praveen, since you have access to the bigger picture on either side of the line of control, from what our government is saying officially, from what sources are telling journalists on the beat, and also from information that you have from across the line of control, was this operation different from others undertaken in the past in terms of scale, size and damage inflicted?
I think more targets simultaneously hit than at any point in the past. So certainly there. The damage, Gaurav, impossible to assess, certainly on the basis of what we know right now. I mean, what we have is patchy at most, and we'll have to wait and see. Scale larger, damage, impossible to say. And consequences, impossible to say. We'll just have to wait and see how Pakistan retaliates. But this is not the end. So definitely this is not the end of the story. I think we'll all be following this story for some length of time to come.
Praveen, Swami, for the moment, many thanks for joining me. And once again, heartiest congratulations on this scoop from across the line of control. Now, Pakistan has been in denial ever since these surgical strikes took place. The Director General of Military Operations, General Ranbir Singh, gave out some details but held back more because this is an operational secrecy issue. But that's one part of the story. The opposition in this country questioned the government, as did Pakistan. Whether it's Russia, whether it's the European Union, some other countries in the world, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, they all believed India, but some politicians in our own country did not. But now there is information that's come from across the line of control from locals there saying that yes, there was a surgical strike, yes, there was damage, yes, the Pakistan army picked up bodies of terrorists, took them to another location and secretly buried their shame. Let's take a look.
A week after the Indian Army annihilated terror launch pads in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, here's the proof that will silence Pakistan. And hopefully the doubters among the political class in the country. People living across the LoC were contacted by an English daily, Indian Express, who confirmed that a military operation did take place.
Two of the people we made contact with provided us with detailed accounts of fighting in the town of Dudnihal, just across the line of control, where Indian troops destroyed a Lashkar-e-Taiba staging post near the Al-Hawi bridge.
The army completely destroyed this last Lashkar outpost near Dudhniyal in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, which served as an equipment hub for terrorists before they infiltrated into India.
Indian troops seem to have struck near the bridge using rocket-propelled grenades and small arms early in the morning, catching the Lashkar troops off fire.
Pakistan authorities and the terror leadership immediately attempted a cover-up, with bodies of slain terrorists being taken away on trucks before the news of the strike spread. Pakistan, in an attempt to save face, has been denying that a strike took place in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. But with eyewitnesses speaking up and international pressure piling, Pakistan has nowhere to hide. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, ever since terrorist Burhan Wani was killed by security forces in an anti-terror operation in Kashmir, Pakistan has been trying to rake up Kashmir at every level. Apart from training, arming, funding terrorists and stone pelters in Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan has also raised the issue at every fora. At the United Nations Security Council, Pakistan got a big snub. The UN Security Council did not hold any discussion on the situation in Kashmir. That's not all. Russia's envoy to the United Nations Security Council, who's also the chair, he's the council president, refused to even comment on the situation in Kashmir.
The tensions between India and Pakistan have gone.
I don't want to go there. Don't want to go there. No, please. No, I don't want to go there, please.
This is the biggest snub to Pakistan's Kashmir rant. The United Nations Security Council making it clear that Kashmir is not their agenda of discussion. While Pakistan has been trying to ensure UN involvement, let's listen in how the Russian envoy and the UNSC president for October 2016 refused to talk about the issue during a news conference at the UN headquarters.
The tensions between India and Pakistan have gone.
I don't want to go there. Don't want to go there. No, please. No, I don't want to go there, please.
Why?
Because I'm president of the Security Council. The Security Council has not been discussing it. Sorry, sir. Sir, I don't want to go. No. No comment. No comment. I'm sorry. Please.
The remarks come after a clear snub to Pakistan, which approached the Security Council on the surgical strikes in POK. And a fortnight ago, Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif tried his best to internationalize the Kashmir issue at the United Nations General Assembly.
I demand an independent inquiry into the extrajudicial killings and a UN fact-finding mission to investigate brutalities perpetrated by the Indian occupying forces, so that those guilty of these atrocities are punished.
Meanwhile, the European Parliament has also backed India's surgical strike on terrorist training camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, calling even international community to commend and support India's cross-border action. Bureau Report, India Today.
And trouble is mounting for Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif back home. He failed at the United Nations. In fact, Pakistan sent out 22 ambassadors across the world to rake up Kashmir, not one taker. Now the ghost of the Panama Papers back to haunt Nawaz Sharif. Facing charges of corruption, Nawaz Sharif is in the line of the opposition fire. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf chief Imran Khan has announced he will boycott the joint session of parliament, stating that participation would mean endorsing the leadership of Nawaz Sharif. Launching an all-out attack, Imran Khan said he no longer considers Nawaz Sharif as Pakistan's prime minister. In April, Panama Papers leaks had revealed offshore financial assets of Nawaz Sharif's children. It's a double whammy for Nawaz Sharif. Former Chief Justice of Pakistan Iftikhar Chaudhry has also filed a petition at the Lahore High Court. He is seeking the disqualification of Nawaz Sharif as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. The former Chief Justice of Pakistan argues that Nawaz Sharif lied about his assets. He's lost moral authority to be Prime Minister of Pakistan.